Hey guys, tonight we're stepping back, way back, to a time before written words, before cities, even before farming as we know it. We're going to pull back the veil on a quiet, dimly lit world deep underground, where the first artists meticulously etched and painted their stories on a stone. Imagine the chill seeping into your bones, the scent of damp earth, and perhaps a wisp of smoke from a flickering animal fat lamp. You trudge deeper into the earth, the silence pressing in around you, broken only by your own breath and the distant drip of water. This isn't your brightly lit studio, your air-conditioned gallery. Oh no, this is a journey into the primeval darkness, a place where, honestly, you'd probably get lost and thoroughly uncomfortable within minutes, stumbling over unseen rocks and tripping on roots. Consider yourself warned. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And as always, let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. We're slipping back about 30,000 years, give or take a few millennia. That's a time frame so vast, it almost becomes meaningless, doesn't it? It's not just a long time ago. It's a completely different planet in many ways. You're not just observing, you're there. You're pushing through a narrow crevice, the rough rocks scraping against your rough furs. And then, suddenly, the chamber opens up. And there, revealed by the trembling light of your primitive lamp, are bison, horses, mammoths, and deer galloping across the stone, frozen in time. These aren't crude doodles. These are vibrant, dynamic images, crafted with astonishing skill and a keen eye for anatomical detail. This is a mainstream historical fact that never ceases to astound, the sheer artistic sophistication of our early ancestors. It challenges that comfortable modern notion that progress is always linear, always upward. Because, frankly, some of these prehistoric masterpieces rival anything painted in the Renaissance. Think about the commitment required. You're not just popping down to the art supply store for a canvas and some tubes of acrylic. Every step of this process is an effort, a negotiation with a raw, untamed world. The pigments themselves? You be grinding ochre for reds and yellows, charcoal or manganese oxides for black, kaolin or ground bone for white. This isn't just a quick dab of paint. This is a labor-intensive, hours-long, maybe even days-long process of preparation before you even think about applying it to the wall. In the application itself, you're not using a brush from a pack of 20. You might be using your fingers, a moss pad, a chewed stick, or even blowing pigment through a hollow bone, creating a subtle spray effect. It's a marvel of ingenuity and dedication, frankly. A quirky tidbit is that some researchers have even suggested that the choice of specific rock formations might have been intentional, with certain curves or protuberances incorporated into the animals' bodies, giving them a three-dimensional quality. It's like the cave itself was a part of the sculpture, a natural canvas demanding collaboration. Historians still argue whether this was a deliberate artistic choice or a clever adaptation to the available surfaces. But either way, it speaks to an incredible awareness of their environment. You can almost feel the rough texture of the rock beneath your hand. Imagine the coolness of the air, the absolute silence that would have been punctuated only by the scritch-scratch of a flint tool or the soft puff of breath as pigment was applied. It's a world you can almost reach out and touch, a world that demands a slower pace, a quiet contemplation. As you venture deeper into the cave, the light from your small lamp struggles to push back the encroaching darkness. It's not just a physical darkness. It's the darkness of an unimaginable past, a void we can only attempt to fill with educated guesses and careful archaeological work. You might notice the air getting cooler, heavier, and perhaps a faint, earthy smell. The entrance, now a distant glimmer, seems impossibly far away. This is not a place for casual visitation. It's a commitment, a journey. And for the artists, it was a profound one. Think about the sheer guts it took to go into these places. No flashlights, no GPS, no emergency services. Just you, your flickering light, and the vast, echoing unknown. It makes popping down to the local hardware store feel incredibly safe by comparison, doesn't it? The early exploration of these cave art sites is a story in itself, often filled with accidental discoveries and painstaking efforts. Take, for example, the Altamira cave in Spain, one of the first major discoveries. It was stumbled upon by a hunter in 1868, but the magnificent paintings weren't fully appreciated until later. A local nobleman, Marcelino Sanz de Sachola, and his young daughter Maria explored it in 1879. It was Maria, with her sharper eyes, who supposedly first spotted the incredible bison on the ceiling. Imagine her gasp of wonder, echoing in the quiet, dusty air. It's a mainstream historical fact that the initial reception of Altamira's authenticity was met with skepticism. Many scholars dismissed it as a hoax, unable to believe primitive people could create such sophisticated art. This tells you a lot about the biases of the time and how difficult it was for the established academic community to accept a paradigm-shifting discovery. But as more caves were found, like Lascaux in France, discovered by 4 teenagers and a dog in 1940, which is a quirky tidbit in itself, imagine explaining that to your parents. The evidence became undeniable. These aren't isolated incidents. They represent a widespread cultural phenomenon across vast stretches of time and geography. You start to realize that these weren't just random scrawls. They were part of a deep, perhaps even spiritual, practice. The question isn't just what did they paint, but why did they paint it? And this leads to one of the biggest scholarly debates. Historians still argue whether the caves were primarily artistic galleries, sacred spaces for rituals, or perhaps even early forms of teaching tools for hunting techniques. Was it art for art's sake? Or was it something far more profound, intrinsically linked to their survival and worldview? Consider the challenges the early explorers faced. Navigating these labyrinthine caves in total darkness, often through narrow passages and over treacherous terrain, was no small feat. They didn't have the benefit of modern mapping techniques or safety equipment. Their understanding of geology and cave systems was minimal. Yet, driven by curiosity and a desire to understand what they had found, they pushed deeper, enduring discomfort and danger. It's a testament to human inquisitiveness, that innate drive to know. You can almost hear the soft scuff of their boots on the cave floor, the murmur of their hushed voices, the drip, drip, drip of water from a stalactite above. It's a surprisingly peaceful sound once you get used to it, a natural rhythm of the earth itself. And in this quiet, you might just find yourself drifting not away from the story, but deeper into it, into the very heart of these ancient mysteries. Imagine the world outside the cave. It's not the world you know. There are no supermarkets, no central heating, no internet. It's a world dominated by the rhythms of nature, by the rising and setting of the sun, the changing seasons, the migrations of animals. You step out of the darkness, blinking in the harsh sunlight, and the sheer vastness of it hits you. This isn't a landscape tamed by human hands. It's a raw, untamed wilderness. Think about the sounds. The wind whistling through the tall grasses, the calls of birds you've never seen before, the distant roar of a mammoth, perhaps. It's a symphony of the wild, a constant reminder of your place in the food chain. The artists, these early humans, were hunter-gatherers. Their lives were dictated by the need to find food. This is a mainstream historical fact. They followed the herds of bison, deer, and horses, their survival intricately linked to the movements of these animals. They gathered plants, berries, and nuts, knowing which were safe to eat and which could be deadly. It was a life of constant movement, of adapting to the changing environment. You wouldn't last a week, let's be honest. You'd probably eat the wrong berry, and that would be that. But within this seemingly harsh existence, there was also a deep connection to the land. A quirky tidbit is that some researchers believe that the cave paintings themselves might reflect a detailed knowledge of animal behavior and migration patterns. The artists weren't just randomly drawing. They were recording, communicating, perhaps even predicting the movements of their prey. It's a fascinating thought. isn't it? That art and survival were so deeply intertwined. Historians still argue whether the caves were used seasonally as temporary shelters during migrations, or some groups lived near them permanently. But either way, the caves weren't their entire world. They were a part of a much larger, more complex existence. Picture their tools, not the sleek, mass-produced items you're used to, but handcrafted implements of stone, bone, and wood. Sharp flint blades for butchering animals, bone needles for sewing clothes from animal hides, wooden spears for hunting. Everything was made by hand, a testament to their ingenuity and resourcefulness. You can almost feel the weight of a stone axe in your hand, the rough texture of the wood, the sharpness of the flint. It was a life of constant labor, of making do with what they had, of finding beauty and meaning in the raw materials of their world. And within this world, they found the time, the inspiration, and the skill to create art that continues to resonate with us across millennia. It's a humbling thought, isn't it? Now, let's go back into the cave, leaving the vast, indifferent wilderness behind. As you move deeper, the concept of the cave as a sanctuary starts to settle in. It's not just a hole in the ground. It's a deliberate retreat, a chosen space. The dampness, the constant temperature, the absolute silence broken only by the echo of a single drip of water or the scuffle of your own feet, these elements contribute to a unique atmosphere. This is a far cry from the exposed plains where danger lurked behind every rustle in the grass. Here in the belly of the earth, there was a sense of profound safety, a feeling of being shielded from the harsh realities of the Ice Age. Think about it. No howling winds, no predatory beasts suddenly appearing on the horizon, no blizzards to contend with. The cave offered consistent shelter, a natural fortress against the elements and threats. This provides a mainstream historical fact. These caves often show evidence of prolonged human occupation, with hearths and discarded tools indicating that they weren't just visited for painting. They were lived in, at least periodically. You might imagine the faint smell of wood smoke lingering in the air. Thousands of years after the last fire was extinguished, a ghostly echo of comfort. It's a bit like settling into a well-loved armchair, isn't it? Just, a very, very old and damp armchair carved out of solid rock. Beyond mere shelter, the cave likely held a deeper, more spiritual significance. A quirky tidbit is the theory that the very acoustics of certain chambers within the caves might have been intentionally chosen for their echoing properties, enhancing chanting or drumming during rituals. Imagine the deep resonance of a human voice or the rhythmic beat of a hand drum, reverberating through the rock. It could have been an incredibly immersive and powerful experience, almost like an ancient sound bath designed to transport you. Historians still argue whether the deeper, more inaccessible parts of the caves were reserved exclusively for ritualistic or artistic purposes, or if daily life simply flowed into these areas when needed. Was there a clear distinction between the living and sacred areas, or did they blend seamlessly? The very act of descending into the earth, moving from light to profound darkness, can be seen as a symbolic journey. You leave the known world behind and enter a liminal space, a threshold between the mundane and the mysterious. For these early humans, who lived so closely with the natural world and its cycles, the cave could have represented the womb of the earth, a place of creation, rebirth, and profound spiritual connection. You're not just a tourist here. You're a transient visitor to a sacred space, a silent witness to rituals long past. The air itself feels different, charged with the echoes of ancient intentions. This quiet, protected environment was where the artists could truly focus, safe from the outside world, allowing their minds to delve into the depths of their creativity and belief systems. Emerging from the serene quiet of the sanctuary, your eyes are immediately drawn to the walls themselves, alive with movement. Bison charge, horses gallop, deer leap. It's a prehistoric zoological garden, but infinitely more profound. The sheer dominance of animal figures in these cave paintings is a mainstream historical fact, found across nearly all major sites from Lascaux to Altamira. You won't find many landscapes or sprawling village scenes. It's almost exclusively the creatures that share their world, and for good reason. These animals were not just food. They were powerful forces of nature, sources of wonder, fear, and respect. Look closely at the details. The powerful humps of the bison, the flowing manes of the horses, the intricate antlers of the deer. The artists captured the essence of these beasts with remarkable skill and economy of line. They weren't just drawing what they saw. They were drawing what they knew, what they felt about these animals. You can practically hear the thundering hooves, the snorting breath, the rustle of their coats. It's like stepping into a silent, ancient documentary played out on stone. A quirky tidbit is the observation that some of the animals, particularly horses, are depicted with what appear to be multiple legs, creating an illusion of movement when viewed by flickering lamplight. It's almost like an early form of animation, a subtle suggestion of life captured on the static surface of the rock. Historians still argue whether the dominance of certain animals, like horses and bison, reflects their importance in the diet, or if they held a particular totemic or spiritual significance. Was it a form of sympathetic magic to ensure successful hunts? Or were they venerated as powerful spirits? Or perhaps, simply, they were the most compelling subjects for these ancient artists. You ponder the silent dialogue between the artist and the animal, a connection forged in the deep wildness of the Pleistocene. You might imagine the artist studying a herd for hours, memorizing every muscle twitch, every subtle shift of weight, before translating that kinetic energy onto the cave wall. Consider the mammoth, a creature of immense power and presence, now extinct. To stand before a painting of a woolly mammoth, rendered thousands of years ago by someone who lived alongside them, is to feel a direct connection to a lost world. These images are not just art. They are windows into an ecosystem, a climate, and a way of life that is utterly alien to us now. The sheer scale of some of these animal depictions, often life-size or even larger, would have been awe-inspiring in the confines of the dimly lit cave. You feel small, yet connected, a momentary part of this ancient, silent herd. And as you gaze, the soft hum of your fan might just blend with the imagined sound of wind through a prehistoric plain. While the grand beasts dominate the cave walls, your eyes eventually find something else, something rarer and often more perplexing: the human forms and handprints. They're not as common, and when they do appear, they're often less detailed, more schematic than the majestic animals. This is a mainstream historical fact. Human figures are depicted much less frequently than animal figures, and when they are, they're often highly stylized, even abstract, sometimes appearing as stick figures or with animal heads. It's almost as if the artists were more comfortable portraying the powerful forces of the wild than themselves. You might wonder why. Was it a form of modesty? A taboo against self-representation? Or did they simply believe that the animals held more spiritual significance, more power to capture on stone? Take, for instance, the famous Birdman at Lascaux. It's a striking image, a bird-headed man falling, or perhaps dancing, in front of a disemboweled bison. It's a very unusual and dramatic scene, and it's a quirky tidbit that this particular image has spawned countless theories, from shamanic trance to a hunting accident. You can almost feel the tension in the scene, the immediacy of that moment, frozen for tens of thousands of years. It's not just a drawing. It's a narrative, albeit one we can only guess at. Historians still argue whether such scenes depict actual events, mythological stories, or shamanic visions. Was this a historical record, a sacred narrative, or a dream made real on stone? Then there are the handprints. Oh, the handprints. They are often found by blowing pigment over a hand pressed against the wall, creating a stencil effect. Some are positive prints, where the hand was dipped in pigment and then pressed on the rock, but most are negative, ghostly outlines. These are incredibly moving. You can almost place your own hand into one of those ancient outlines, feel the slight chill of the rock, and sense the presence of someone who lived so long ago. It's an incredibly intimate connection across the vastness of time. A moment of quiet reflection, perhaps. These handprints offer a powerful, personal signature. Were they marks of ownership, proof of presence, or part of a ritual? You might notice some hands are missing fingers or appear to be. While some theories suggest ritualistic amputation, a more widely accepted explanation, which is less gruesome and probably more accurate, is that the artists simply bent their fingers, perhaps due to cold or a physical condition, or that the paint simply didn't cover the entire digit. So, no need to be alarmed. Your sleep won't be disturbed by ancient surgical procedures. These simple outlines, in their profound simplicity, are perhaps the most direct link we have to the actual people who created this incredible art, a silent testament to their lives and their existence. Beyond the recognizable animal forms and the enigmatic handprints, your gaze drifts to the more abstract marks, the symbols and abstract marks that pepper the cave walls. These are perhaps the most puzzling elements of prehistoric cave art, a silent language that continues to elude full translation. You see dots, lines, zigzags, chevrons, grids, and more complex geometric shapes. This is a mainstream historical fact. These non-figurative signs appear frequently, sometimes accompanying the animals, sometimes standing alone, and they show remarkable consistency across vast geographical distances and time periods. It suggests that they weren't just random doodles, but held a specific meaning, a purpose that was understood by those who created and viewed them. Imagine yourself trying to decipher a foreign alphabet without a Rosetta Stone. That's essentially what archaeologists and art historians are doing with these symbols. A quirky tidbit is the theory, put forward by some researchers, that certain signs might represent natural phenomena, like flowing water or stars, or perhaps even a primitive form of mapping. You might imagine an ancient artist sketching out the course of a river or the layout of a hunting ground using these abstract marks. It's a tantalizing thought, isn't it? That these could be the earliest forms of information storage, a rudimentary system for conveying complex ideas. Historians still argue whether these abstract signs represent an early form of writing, a system of mnemonic devices for oral traditions, or perhaps even clan or individual markings. Were they a proto-language, a symbolic code, or simply decorative elements? The debate is lively and ongoing, with no single, universally accepted answer. You might find yourself staring at a sequence of dots and lines, trying to find a pattern, to unlock the secret message held within them. It's a quiet challenge, a mental puzzle to soothe your overthinking brain. Consider the possibility that these symbols acted as visual cues for stories or myths. When gathered around a flickering lamp, an elder might have used these signs to guide their narration, bringing ancient tales to life for the community. Or perhaps they were part of a ritual, a sacred language understood only by initiates. The mystery is part of their allure, isn't it? The fact that they refuse to give up their meaning easily only deepens your appreciation for the minds that conceive them. And as you try to make sense of these ancient squiggles, you might feel a pleasant sense of calm, a gentle intellectual hum, as your mind drifts on the currents of historical speculation. As you stand in the cavern, enveloped by the cool, unchanging air, you might wonder about the most fundamental aspect of creating these masterpieces in absolute blackness, light in the darkness. How did these ancient artists see what they were doing? This isn't just about illuminating a small area. It's about providing enough consistent light to meticulously detail the fur on a bison or the delicate lines of a handprint, often high up on uneven surfaces. This is a mainstream historical fact. The primary source of artificial light in these deep caves was typically torches or, more commonly, stone lamps fueled by animal fat. Imagine the flickering, dancing shadows distorting the painted figures, making them seem to move and breathe on the rock. Picture a shallow, bowl-shaped stone, perhaps with a small depression carved into it. Into this depression, the artist would place animal fat, maybe from a mammoth or bison, a plentiful resource at the time, and a wick, often made of moss or a fibrous plant material. When lit, These simple lamps would burn for hours, casting a warm, smoky glow. A quirky tidbit is that some lamps have been found with handles, suggesting they were designed to be portable, allowing the artist to move along the uneven cave walls. You might even find yourself imagining the subtle scent of burning fat, a primal aroma mingling with the damp earth, filling the air as the artist worked. It's a very different kind of studio lighting than you're used to say the least. No bright LEDs here, just the soft, intimate glow of a flame. Historians still argue whether the flickering nature of these lamps was deliberately exploited by the artist to create an illusion of movement, making the painted animals seem to come alive. Did they intend for the light to animate their creations, to give a sense of dynamism to the static images? Or was it simply a practical necessity, a byproduct of the available technology? You might even try closing your eyes for a moment, letting the darkness surround you, then imagining a single, small flame cutting through it. The way the light would play on the irregular surfaces of the rock, highlighting some features, plunging others in a shadow, would have been an integral part of the viewing experience. Beyond the lamps, there's evidence of torches, bundles of wood or resinous material being used, especially for moving through longer passages or for briefly illuminating larger chambers. These would have provided a brighter, more expansive light, but also more smoke. So, the air quality probably wasn't pristine, but given they were in enormous caves, ventilation was likely sufficient enough to prevent immediate discomfort. You can almost feel the heat radiating from the tiny flame, a small pocket of warmth against the constant chill of the underground world. It's a testament to their dedication that they undertook such intricate work in conditions that would make most modern artists politely decline the commission. The creation of such detailed and enduring art in the challenging environment of a cave wasn't likely a solo, spur-of-the-moment endeavor. It suggests a process, a passing down of knowledge, much like any craft. This brings us to the fascinating idea of apprentices and mentors in prehistoric art. It's a mainstream historical fact that across many hunter-gatherer societies, skills like tool-making, hunting, and even storytelling were taught from generation to generation. It stands to reason that artistic knowledge, especially for such significant works, would have followed a similar pattern. You can almost picture an older, more experienced artist, perhaps with hands gnarled from a lifetime of gathering and creating, patiently guiding a younger, eager hand. Imagine the scene. A young person, perhaps a teenager, sitting beside an elder, watching intently as they grind ochre into a fine powder, or mix charcoal with animal fat to create a deep black pigment. You might hear the soft scraping sounds, the murmurs of instruction, the quiet concentration. It's a far cry from art school, isn't it? No formal critique sessions, just direct, hands-on learning passed down through observation and imitation. A quirky tidbit is that some researchers have identified variations in artistic styles within the same cave or across different layers of paint, suggesting different individuals or even generations that contributed to the artwork over vast stretches of time. It's like a collaborative masterpiece, with each artist adding their voice to the silent chorus on the walls. Historians still argue whether the artists were a specialized class within the community, perhaps shamans or respected elders, or if artistic expression was a more widespread skill shared among many. Was this a gifted few, chosen for their talent, or was it a skill that many could cultivate to some degree? You might imagine a sense of pride in their work, a quiet satisfaction in mastering the techniques of creating these powerful images. Think about the patience required, not just in the painting itself, but in the preparation of materials, the long journeys into the cave, the enduring of damp and cold. The role of a mentor would have been crucial not just for teaching technique, but also for imparting the deeper meanings and stories associated with the art. Remember those abstract symbols we discussed earlier? A mentor would have been the keeper of that knowledge, explaining the significance of each mark, the narratives woven into the depictions of animals. It's more than just painting. It's about transmitting culture, history, and belief systems. You might sense the quiet reverence in the air as these lessons were imparted, a connection to the ancestors stretching back through countless generations. This continuity of knowledge, this silent apprenticeship, is what allowed such incredible artistic traditions to flourish for tens of thousands of years. Stepping out of the deep cave, where time seems to stand still, you find yourself back in the vast, untamed prehistoric world. This is where the artists spent the majority of their time, life beyond the canvas. Their cave paintings were a profound expression, but they were deeply intertwined with the practicalities of survival. This is a mainstream historical fact. These early humans were hunter-gatherers, a lifestyle dictated by the availability of food and resources. Their daily rhythm was set by the sun, the seasons, and the movements of the animals they hunted. Imagine a typical day. You'd wake with the first light, perhaps in a temporary shelter near a river or a rock overhang. The air would be crisp, maybe even cold. Your first thoughts would turn to food, where to find it, how to secure it. You might join a hunting party, stalking herds of bison or wild horses across the open plains, using spears tipped with sharpened flint or bone. It was a perilous undertaking, requiring immense courage, tracking skills, and teamwork. A quirky tidbit is that some archaeological evidence suggests they used sophisticated hunting strategies, like driving herds off cliffs or in natural traps, indicating a complex understanding of their environment and prey behavior. It wasn't just brute force, it was cunning and collaboration. While the men often focused on large game hunting, the women played an equally vital role, often gathering plants, berries, roots, and nuts. This balanced approach ensured a more consistent food supply and provided essential nutrients that meat alone couldn't offer. You can almost feel the weight of a digging stick in your hand, the careful observation needed to identify edible plants from poisonous ones. It was a continuous cycle of seeking, gathering, and preparing. Historians still argue whether there was a strict division of labor by gender or if roles were more fluid and adaptable, depending on the specific needs of the group and the environment. But what's clear is that survival was a communal effort. Their shelters weren't just caves. They constructed temporary dwellings from mammoth bones and hides, or simple lean-tos from branches and animal skins. You wouldn't have a permanent address or a mortgage, which sounds strangely liberating until you remember the constant threat of starvation or predators. Social structures would have been based around small, nomadic bands, perhaps extended family units. These groups would share knowledge, resources, and protection. Think about the conversations around the fire at night, the stories shared, the skills taught to the younger generation. It was a life of constant movement, adaptation, and an intimate connection with the natural world, a far cry from our structured, predictable existences. Having considered the daily struggle for survival, we circle back to the profound question: what was the purpose of the art? Why, amidst the demands of hunting and gathering, did these ancient people dedicate so much time and effort to decorating deep, often inaccessible caves? This isn't just a mainstream historical fact, it's one of the grandest mysteries in archaeology. The simple answer, art for art's sake, feels incomplete when you consider the sheer difficulty of its creation. You can't imagine someone thinking, "Oh, I'm just feeling a bit creative today, might as well brave the bears and the darkness to paint a bison." There had to be a deeper motivation. One prominent theory suggests the art was a form of sympathetic magic. The idea was that by depicting animals, especially those important for food, they could influence the outcome of hunts. Painting a powerful bison with a spear wound, for example, might have been believed to ensure success in a future hunt. It's a bit like a really elaborate, very serious good luck charm, wouldn't you say? A quirky tidbit supporting this is the discovery of actual spear marks or other wounds depicted on some painted animals, hinting at this ritualistic connection to hunting. Imagine a group preparing for a difficult hunt, performing a ceremony in front of these images, drawing strength and confidence from the painted predictions. Historians still argue whether such practices were truly about manipulating reality or more about psychologically preparing the hunters for their dangerous endeavors. Was it magic, or was it a powerful form of visualization and morale building? Another widely debated purpose centers on the idea of shamanism. In many traditional cultures, shamans act as intermediaries between the human and spirit worlds, often entering altered states of consciousness. Some theories propose that the caves were sacred spaces for shamanic rituals, and the paintings were either visions experienced during trances or attempts to depict the spirit world. You might notice figures that seem to blend human and animal characteristics, often interpreted as shamans in transformation. This would explain the deep, dark, and often echoing chambers perfect for inducing a transcendent state. A third theory posits that the art served an educational or communicative function. Perhaps the paintings were visual textbooks, teaching younger generations about animal behavior, hunting techniques, or the mythological stories of their people. Remember those abstract symbols? They could have been part of this visual language, mnemonic devices to aid in memory and storytelling. Or perhaps the caves were gathering places for important ceremonies, where the art served as a backdrop to community rituals and the transmission of cultural knowledge. The truth is likely a blend of many purposes, shifting over time and between different groups. There's no single, universally agreed upon answer, and that's part of their enduring mystique. As you stand in the painted chambers, you might find your voice hushed, almost instinctively. It's not just the sacredness of the art, it's the very structure of the cave around you. Many of these ancient sites exhibit remarkable acoustic properties, leading some researchers to explore the role of acoustics and echoes in the cave art experience. This isn't just a happy coincidence. It's a mainstream historical fact that many painted areas are located in parts of the cave where sounds reverberate powerfully or where specific musical notes can be produced by striking stalactites or stalagmites. You might imagine the air alive with sound, a primeval symphony accompanying the visual artistry. Consider the effect of a human voice, a chant, or the rhythmic thud of a hand on the chest, echoing dramatically through a chamber. A quirky tidbit is that some researchers have even used modern acoustic mapping techniques to demonstrate that certain painted panels correlate with areas of high resonance. It's as if the artists were not only considering what their art looked like, but also how it sounded in situ. You might close your eyes for a moment and imagine the profound impact of a simple drumbeat, amplified and elongated by the natural architecture of the cave. It would have been an incredibly immersive, almost overwhelming sensory experience. Historians still argue whether these acoustic properties were intentionally sought out and utilized by the artists, or if their presence in such resonant chambers was merely coincidental. Did they explore the caves, tapping on various surfaces, listening for the perfect echo before choosing their canvas? Or did they simply paint where it was convenient and well lit by their lamps, and the sound quality was a bonus? Regardless, the effect would have been powerful. The very air around you would feel charged, vibrating with the echoes of ancient sounds. The interplay of sound and vision would have created a multisensory experience, potentially heightening the impact of rituals or storytelling. Imagine a shaman chanting before a powerful depiction of a bison, their voice deepening and spreading throughout the cavern, making the painted animal seem to stir to life. Or a group gathered, sharing stories passed down through generations, their voices amplified by the natural acoustics, creating a sense of unity and shared experience. You can almost feel the vibrations in your chest, a primal connection to the earth itself. The quiet, resonant environment of these caves transformed mere drawings into living, breathing entities, making the entire experience a profound journey into the heart of their beliefs. Given the remarkable interplay of art and acoustics, it's a short step to imagining these caves as truly sacred sites and rituals. They weren't just art galleries. They were profound centers of spiritual activity, places where the veil between the mundane and the mystical might have felt thinnest. This is a mainstream historical fact. Across many ancient cultures, caves were often considered entrances to the underworld or homes to deities and spirits. You can almost feel the weight of countless generations of reverence in the still air, a solemn quiet broken only by the drip of water. Imagine a group, perhaps illuminated by the dancing flames of animal fat lamps, gathered in a deep chamber where the painted animals seem to emerge from the very rock. You might hear rhythmic chanting, the thud of bare feet on the earth floor, or the low hum of a bone flute. These sounds, echoing and reverberating, would have created an incredibly immersive and transformative experience. A quirky tidbit is the discovery of small, portable lamps or fireplaces in very deep, hard-to-reach parts of some caves, suggesting intimate, smaller rituals were performed in these secluded nooks. It's not always about grand ceremonies. Sometimes, the most powerful rituals are the most private. Historians still argue whether the specific placement of certain animals or symbols within the caves corresponded to particular ritualistic purposes or spiritual beliefs. Were the animals drawn to invoke hunting success as an act of veneration or as part of initiation rites for young hunters? You might visualize a young initiate, eyes wide with awe and apprehension, witnessing these ancient masterpieces for the first time as part of a rite of passage, forever connecting them to their ancestors and the powerful spirits of the animals. The act of creating the art itself could have been a ritual. The grinding of pigments, the patient application of paint, the journey into the earth's depths, each step could have been imbued with spiritual significance. It was a pilgrimage, a dedication, an offering. You can almost feel the heightened sense of awareness, the focused intent of the artists and participants. These weren't places for idle chatter or casual visits. They were spaces of profound meaning, where the human spirit connected with the ancient earth and the unseen forces of their world. This silent, underground cathedral, adorned with the visions of their ancestors, served as a powerful conduit for their beliefs and their very understanding of existence. After tens of thousands of years, the fact that we can even stand before these ancient works of art is a testament to their remarkable preservation and discovery. It's a marvel of geological fortune and careful archaeological work. This is a mainstream historical fact. The stable, cool, and dark conditions deep within these caves provided ideal environments for the preservation of organopigments and the rock surfaces themselves. You can almost feel the dry, still air that has kept these masterpieces intact through millennia of seismic activity, climate shifts, and human history. Imagine the luck involved. Many of these caves were sealed off by natural events, rockfalls, landslides, or glacial movements, sometimes for thousands of years, creating a hermetically sealed time capsule. This protected the fragile art from the ravages of weather, erosion, and even early human disturbance. A quirky tidbit is how some caves, like Lascaux, were only rediscovered due to incredibly mundane circumstances, like a dog chasing a rabbit into a hole. Imagine the sheer dumb luck of that particular rabbit. It's a reminder that sometimes the most profound discoveries happen by accident, hidden just beneath the surface of everyday life. Historians still argue whether the occasional flooding or shifting water tables in some caves might have inadvertently helped in their preservation by creating a protective mineral layer over the paintings. Did nature, in its own unpredictable way, act as a conservator? Or were these events sometimes destructive, washing away priceless art? You might ponder the delicate balance, the geological dance that allowed these silent masterpieces to endure. The painstaking work of archaeologists and conservators once a cave is discovered is equally crucial. Early discoveries sometimes suffered from well-meaning but ultimately damaging interventions, like the introduction of artificial lighting and human breath, which can alter the delicate microclimates of the caves and lead to mold growth or deterioration of the art. Think of the immense responsibility of being the first modern human to lay eyes on something so ancient and fragile. Today, strict access controls, environmental monitoring, and advanced conservation techniques are employed to protect these irreplaceable treasures for future generations. You can almost feel the gentle hum of modern monitoring equipment, working silently to preserve the fragile legacy of our ancient ancestors. It's a quiet battle against the forces of time and decay, ensuring that the quiet lives of these prehistoric painters continue to speak to us across the vast expanse of history. As our journey through the silent, echoing chambers draws to a close, we're left not just with images on a wall, but with the profound, enduring legacy echoes of these quiet lives. These cave paintings aren't just ancient artifacts. They're direct messages from our distant past, speaking volumes about the human spirit, creativity, and resilience. This is a mainstream historical fact. These artworks fundamentally changed our understanding of early human capabilities, proving that our ancestors were not just struggling for survival, but were capable of complex thought, symbolic expression, and profound artistic talent. You can almost feel the presence of those ancient hands, still reaching out to us across the chasm of time. Imagine standing before a painting in Chauvet Cave, dating back over 30,000 years, and realizing the unbroken chain of human artistic endeavor stretching from that moment to today. It's a humbling thought, isn't it? That the impulse to create, to tell stories, to leave a mark, is deeply ingrained in our very being. A quirky tidbit is the recent discovery of the oldest known cave art in Sulawesi, Indonesia, pushing back the timeline of human artistic expression even further and highlighting its global, rather than purely European, origins. It suggests that artistic expression is a fundamental part of the human experience, evolving independently in different parts of the world. Historians still argue whether these widespread artistic expressions point to a single origin for art, or if it's a testament to the parallel development of cognitive abilities across different human populations. Was it one spark or many? The echoes of these prehistoric artists resonate not just in art history, but in our understanding of human consciousness, ritual, and communication. They force us to reconsider what it means to be primitive and remind us that ingenuity and creativity aren't modern inventions. You might find yourself seeing the world a little differently now, noticing the subtle curves of a rock, the way light plays on a surface with a newfound appreciation. The quiet lives of these cave painters, unknown by name, continue to inspire awe and curiosity, prompting new questions and challenging our preconceived notions. Their silent masterpieces are a reminder of the power of visual storytelling, a form of communication that transcends language and time. They speak of a deep connection to the natural world, a reverence for the animals that sustain them, and a complex inner life we are only just beginning to grasp. As you drift deeper into relaxation, let the images of these ancient artists, their flickering lamps, and their vibrant animal spirits gently guide you. Their enduring legacy is not just on the cave walls, but within our shared human story, a quiet testament to the origins of our dreams. The images begin to soften now, the vibrant reds and blacks of the cave walls slowly fading into deeper, gentler hues. The imagined chill of the ancient cave gives way to a comforting warmth, and the distant drip of water becomes a soft, rhythmic patter, easing you further into stillness. The sounds of the prehistoric world, the imagined rustle of fur and the echoing chants, are replaced by the quiet hum of your room, a familiar and peaceful sound. Let the stories of these ancient artists, their silent dedication, and their enduring legacy gently wash over you. There's no need to hold on to every detail now. Just let the feeling of that immense history, that quiet creativity, settle deep within your mind. The long journey into the past is complete, and the present moment embraces you with its calm embrace. Your thoughts can drift, like smoke from a long extinguished lamp, dissipating into the soft darkness. Rest easy now, knowing that even in the deepest corners of history, beauty and meaning were found and cherished.